Hope you're all well, and I'm really pleased to welcome you to the Brighteye European EdTech Tour as we have arrived in the Netherlands. My name is Hege, and I'm head of community at Brighteye Ventures, where I'm doing my very best to support our portfolio companies. I also do communications and events like this trip that I've enjoyed being on with many of you throughout this year. Today, we're happy to introduce Alice from ProctorExam and Peter from Growth Tribe, two exciting Dutch EdTech companies. And Peter is also a founder of Dutch Edtech that was recently launched. And for the VC view, we have Ilonka from TapTrove Ventures and Ernst from Slingshot Ventures. My colleague David will host the conversations. But before we welcome the panels, our head of research, Reese, is going to give us a little dive into the European and Dutch EdTech funding landscape. Go ahead, Reese.
Thank you very much, Hege. Firstly, it's great to be here and speaking with you all today. Please forgive my cut lip. It's a sports injury. It's not from fighting for a deal. As some of you might know, Brighteye is the most active EdTech-focused fund in Europe, investing in 7 to 10 new companies every year at seed and Series A. The companies that we work with help people to learn and grow, and our interests span the early years to lifelong learning and everything in between, and we do have interests in related sectors too. Our team really specializes in helping companies to scale across countries, cultures, languages, and institutional barriers. And indeed, our team is growing. I think David will mention that shortly. But without further ado, we'll shift on to the main part of this presentation. So hopefully you can all see my screen. As you may know, this is the sixth stop on our European tour. And as we've made our way around Europe, we've been monitoring the fantastic amount of activity occurring across the continent and the record-breaking levels of funding. Of course, today we're focusing on the Netherlands, so we'll start with some data at the European level, then take a closer look at the Netherlands and end with a few macro trends on noteworthy exits. So, European level trends. Even with a slightly narrowed EdTech definition, 2021 EdTech VC investment is more than double 2020 levels. The 711 million raised in 2020 has been blasted out of the park, raised thus far in 2021. And if we see a similar end to the year in 2021 as we did in 2020, then we could expect to see levels triple by the end of the year. The 1.7 billion running total represents 21x growth in investment since 2014. And this investment has been raised across 168 transactions, which interestingly means we can expect to see a similar total deal count in 2021 compared to 2020. More funding and a similar number of deals means, of course, that the average deal size is increasing after a period of relatively consistent levels. The average deal size thus far in 2021 is, again, more than 3x the 2020 level, including all rounds of all sizes, including seed. And on the distribution of round sizes, there is relative consistency in deal count across the 10 million plus ranges, which shows some positive signs of maturity in the market. And the pipeline for further large rounds in 2022 looks promising too, given that 49% of deals thus far in 2021 have been in the $1 to $10 million range. So where has this activity been happening? Well, the funding landscape is broadening. Investors are increasingly market agnostic. For the first time, Austria, Denmark, and the Netherlands take a place in the top set of countries, reasons by total funding, driven by large rounds by companies headquartered in the markets. So GoStudent in Austria, Labster in Denmark, and Studocu in the Netherlands. This graphic, therefore, is more a representation of where the biggest rounds have taken place, rather than where most activity has occurred. And the only market that really bucks this trend at the moment is the UK, where no companies have raised more than 50 million this year. Focusing in on the Netherlands, we see extremely positive growth in the total EdTech VC investment, of course, in large part driven by Studocu's $50 million round. This will see an enormous increase in the number of EdTech specialists working in the Netherlands, which will lead to a maturing ecosystem as early employees spin off and create their own organizations with some really positive EdTech pedigree. It's worth pointing out, though, that without the Studocu round, the total funding for this year would be $8 million, and the total number of deals would be similar too, though slightly higher than previous years. And the same is true of the average deal size, as you can see in the table on the right. Indeed, the Dutch EdTech and wider ecosystem is maturing nicely, with a range of promising companies operating in the market, a number of renowned and more local accelerators choosing to locate in the market, and a number of international investors beginning to invest in Dutch tech companies. So it's unsurprising, though, that the EdTech scene is maturing nicely, as the conditions in the Netherlands are excellent for starting a business, or indeed choosing to expand into the Netherlands. In our expansion work, the Netherlands is frequently cited as a popular route for expansion, on the assumption it's an excellent testbed for other speaking markets, in part, of course. There are a number of reasons why the Netherlands is considered an excellent place to do business. There's the excellent education system with strong long-term commitment to technical education. It's also possible to study in English. It's renowned in all rankings that matter for its economic and political stability. Its digital infrastructure is world-leading. Its major cities are home to world-leading accelerators and companies, as I just outlined. And one of the fundamental reasons for its popularity as a gateway into English-speaking markets certainly is that 95% of the population speaks a good level of English. But of course, none of this will really be news to you, but a lot of these things are, the sort of conditions that are very attractive to both new companies and also to investors like us. So with favorable conditions like these in a good number of European markets, it's unsurprising that we're seeing larger rounds and higher valuations. These trends aren't exclusive to Europe, though, of course. There are now 30 EdTech unicorns around the world, and more than 20 have been minted since March 2020, when the pandemic began. The first European unicorn was minted this year, which is Go Student, as everyone on this call will already know, but a number of others are also on the march, and some of those are outlined here. In 2021 so far, we've been delighted to see 8 $50 million plus rounds across 5 different European markets, which is really positive because it shows the breadth of EdTech strength across the continent at the moment. And those companies, just as a quick reminder, Go Student, Open Classrooms, Lingoda, Labster, Elumi, StudocQ, Coach Hub, and a member of the Brighteye family, which is Ornicar. And this is really great to see. And another trend we hope will continue is the increasingly diversified path to liquidity. And they've conventionally been limited in the EdTech space in recent years, with the only traditional buyers being the large publishing houses. But we're starting to see a new wave of strategic buyers coming to the fore, such as Process acquiring Stack Overflow. And we're also seeing past and present EdTech unicorns becoming acquirers, such as Baiju's acquisition of Epic, a Brighteye family member, and Kahoot's acquisition of Clever. So all in all, it's an incredibly exciting time to be in this space, and we're really looking forward to hearing more from the entrepreneurs and investors in the thick of it in the sessions that follow. But just in case you'd like to read our full funding report, either the one at the start of the year or the half-year report, which we published in July, or in fact the expansion report, international expansion report, which we launched on Friday, please do go to this link on our website to check them out. So thanks again for listening, and back to you, Hege.
Thanks very much, Reese. And I've also actually posted the link to the report in the chat, so you can all pick it up there. So I am now excited then to introduce the first panelists together with my colleague David. So I'll let you all on stage, David and Alice and Peter, and I'll get off. Take it away.
Yeah, hi guys, hi everyone, welcome. Hope you're doing well. Thank you, Reese, for this great overview. This is absolutely crazy for the European scene, the European EdTech scene, and we are super excited. As you can imagine, so $1.7 billion invested so far is just madness. So that's great. So everyone, I'm David from Brighteye, and it's great to meet you. We're really lucky today to have great people joining the conversations. 2 interesting conversations, and I would love to give a massive thank you to all of them. Thank you. I'll thank obviously Peter and Alice too, and thank you everyone for joining the session. We're very grateful to be spending roughly 60 minutes with you. I'm calling from the south of France at the moment, so it's sunny outside, as you can see. But just a quick note for housekeeping before we jump in. This is an open Q&A, so please feel free to share your questions in the chat. Hege will make sure that we will get to them. And one other word, we are looking for two more associates in the Paris and the London office. So if you know someone who would be interested, please share the word. We will be reviewing all the applications before the end of the month. So if that's all right, let's start with the first conversation on selling, learning and education in the B2B context across Europe. As I said, we have two great and complementary guests for this conversation. They are both B2B companies that serve different clients. One serves universities and the other serves companies. So it'll be interesting to see the contrast between the two. So let's welcome Alice. She's the COO of ProctorExam. And Peter, who's the CEO and co-founder of Growthtribe. So welcome, guys. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying the nice weather in Amsterdam. And then I'll shut up because I feel like I'm talking a lot here and I'd really love to know more about you. So I'd love to hear more about your backgrounds and your companies. So should we start with you, Alice? I guess ladies first.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. And as you can hear with my accent, I'm closer to David than I am from Peter, but actually based in Amsterdam for a Dutch company. So I'm Alice and I'm the former COO of ProctorExam. ProctorExam is a technology to supervise exam taken remotely. Yeah. Obviously, the context the last couple of months has been quite a driver for the adoption of online proctoring and resulted into our acquisition by Turnitin at the end of last year. Thank you. So we are now part of the Turnitin larger group and I'm today Senior Director of Assessment Delivery for the group.
That's cool. Thank you, Alice. Thank you. Thanks so much. And again, congratulations for the acquisition. That's a beautiful news for the overall EdTech ecosystem in Europe. Peter, please, would love to hear more about you and Growthtribe.
Hey, David. Good afternoon. Peter, co-founder, CEO of Growthtribe. I do a little bit three things now, I think, related to this topic in this webinar. So one, Growthtribe. I'm a co-founder, so we are having digital courses for people and corporate training for corporates, individual trainings in data, growth marketing, innovation, UX design. And on the corporate side, we are helping mainly companies building up learning programs, measure them, thinking like what they need to teach their workforce, how to organize it and how to measure it. Organized. So that's Growthtribe. We are now we operate in Europe completely live online. The team in Finland, Amsterdam, and Paris. There's 3 teams in 3 countries at this moment. So that's Growthtribe, and then next to that, a little bit in my spare time, Dutch Edtech. So there's a foundation that we bring all EdTech companies in the Netherlands to the Netherlands. Connected ecosystem, share insights, learning, funding. And we have a big event on Tuesday where we're also going to launch a big report. And then next to that, Tech Me Up, where we help people with small loans so they can reskill and upskill themselves without interest. So that's what I'm also doing. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Peter. Busy guy, yeah?
Yeah, that's too busy. Yeah, but I like it. It's necessary.
That's great. That's great. So, guys, the first question really it's more a general question, right? But it's really I would love to get your perspectives on the current state of the European EdTech B2B space. And I say EdTech B2B space on purpose because you are, as I said, serving 2 different markets. So for you, Peter, on the more the corporate training side of things, what is your current take on the market?
Yeah, it's a good question. A lot is happening. What we see a little bit is that you have companies who, in 2 groups still. I think you have the companies who still think that they can change their workforce and upskill or reskill the first person with just platforms. Yeah, we have a platform. Go to LinkedIn Learning and here's the course and learn whatever. And then you have the companies who have a hangover from that and say, "Oh, it doesn't work. We need to have a mix of live courses platform courses, and also work together with companies, because sometimes they want to do it themselves. So we focus mainly on the second part of the companies who are open and want to work with learning providers or learning academies, how we call ourselves. We're more a learning partner. And those are companies, and some companies that are really, going from training to learning in the company. So it's not about like, here's your course, but more like, what is your learning? So it's more the consumer centricity approach inside the company for their employees, right? Instead of like, here's a course, you need to do the course, but more. So that's what we see a little bit happening, creating more a learning culture. One also, I think in the Netherlands, we have now, for 100 people, there are 150 jobs open. So the talent shortage is going to increase like crazy. So you see now way more companies like, what we're advising as well is like building, buy and build, is don't only buy talent and buy them, but start building internal as well, right? So helping you people, creating programs, and sometimes that is even cheaper because you don't need to do the onboarding and you don't need to have the recruitment cost, but you just need to train. So that's what we see, but we're still pretty early. They're not like real big learning programs. There are some companies, but not yet where you say, okay, we 3-4 double invest in learning and make more time in the organization. But you see the steps, and you see a little bit better. Also, what we also see is the data trend coming up, more in what is the impact of the learning. So this is a little bit what I said before, the hangover of only learning using a platform. Platforms don't always have behavioral change and operational, organizational, operational, and personal change, right? And that's now with data, you can show that a little bit more with like more hybrids, so on live or on demand courses. And the companies see that as well. So those are the things that I see on the B2B side starting to.
Cool, thank you a lot. Alice, what about you?
Yeah, I think to Peter's point, what I find quite interesting in the phase we are into with EdTech is we have focused on showing that the technology could do what we do offline. And now we are actually really asking the right question, is what do we want to achieve? How do we want to use technology to foster learning, the skills development? So the real wave of innovation, I feel, is likely to come now or in the coming years. And the diversity, the dynamic of the EdTech ecosystem that we're seeing with the funding, with the variety of the actor in the ecosystem, is certainly going to facilitate that innovation. When I landed in EdTech in 2015, it feels like ages ago, but it's very recent. We were very, very small numbers of players, and it was definitely a more flat type of market, not as attractive as it is right now. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to be in that space because the innovation, I'm sure, will come from that diversity and richness of the ecosystem.
That's great. Well, look, we believe that too. So yes, we are all excited here. And it's, guys, more of an operational question. It's, so you both are active in several markets, right? And this is obviously a big milestone, right? And I would love to really understand how do you go about prioritizing which markets do you enter? What's the rationale behind choosing one market over another? Is it really opportunistic and like, hey, we have found some universities or corporate clients there, so we should open an office there or build a team? Or is it more like really like, hey, you know what, we do a market research, a proper one, and then we decide whether this one is the next market we should expand into? So yeah, would love really to understand that. Alice, how does that work for you? So
in full transparency, from a ProctorExam standpoint, it took a few iterations in order to arrive to our true value proposition and our true sweet spot in terms of go-to-market. Ultimately, what we realize, education is broad. Indeed, it starts with education institution, but you continue with lifelong learning, and you will take potentially exam throughout your entire student and then work career. So we do not only work with higher education institutions, we actually work a lot with corporate certification players and more internal corporate assessment players who are looking at compliance exam and need to also ensure that the person behind the computer is the person that needs to be certified. So our iteration at finding really what was the specialty of our company allowed us to understand what channel we should actually pursue. And we realized that in the ecosystem, the tech ecosystem, much more than in other segments, you work in a puzzle of other technology existing. You cannot solve everything on your own. You always need to partner at some stage, whether that's for the registration, recruitment of your candidate to the learning path before arriving to the assessment. And that's that realization that allowed us to understand that there were certainly more mature companies already existing into the market that were proposing some complementary technology. And instead of going and trying to solve the entire problem ourselves, we could rather partner with strong channel partners that already had existing clients in the market and provide an added brick to their ecosystem and leverage their expertise and their relationship in order to be successful. So through that strategy, it allowed us also to be, I think, more pragmatic in the way that we were developing our client base, because ultimately we deal with one player that then deals with the multiplicity of the client that they've got behind. So our rationale was really trying to find the mature technology partner that could allow us to serve at scale more clients.
That's interesting. Okay, that's okay, that makes sense. It's not really like, hey, we have to expand into Spain. It's more like where the market is. Okay, that's
yes.
I mean, where the companies that are ready to use our technology are more
exactly.
If we are more precise. Okay.
Especially if you are into a market that is highly structured with where the skill sets are defined by a specific certification party. You need to have that understanding and footprint from an existing partner or an existing player to go faster, I would say, especially when you're small.
Thank you. I didn't expect that answer, that approach. So that I'm a bit surprised. Took some notes. Peter, what about a growth tribe? I know you guys. I mean, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I know that you have a very interesting expansion model. But how do you choose one market?
So maybe the story a little bit, or one of the main courses that we teach is like the growth mindset and rapid experimentation and growth marketing. And so we tested ourselves as well different markets. So we do some Facebook campaigns in different countries, and then we look what the replies are, right? And then that's the first test. And then after that, we do the second step, and then we say, okay, these countries are replying on those ads for going to the course or requesting an in-house course, for example. And then we continue further and we say, okay, let's do some local events. That's what we did before Corona. And now we do webinars, and we see how people reply on those. And then we get one client or two clients, and then we build it further. So it is not now with Corona and after Corona, it's not really country strategy anymore, I think. So we have teams in Finland, Amsterdam, and Paris. Of course, Paris, we teach in France, and the team is talking, but they also helping countries in Belgium, for example, and in Luxembourg. And the Finnish team is focusing mainly on Finland, and that was a country that was reacting completely different than, for example, other Nordic countries with our online experiments. So after testing and experimenting for two years, we saw that Finland was really operating really well. So for me, it's what we see is like we helping corporates is more like how far are they with the digital transformation maturity, right? On the product, on the team, and on the organization. And we can give on all those three, we can give a score. And if they are really behind, then maybe learning is not their number one priority. maybe it should be, but it's not there. No. But some countries are further, and then they, we want to work more in a data-driven way, and we need to make sure that people have certain data capabilities and a certain mindset and know how to run experiments. And then they have a training need. So we look more at like the maturity of markets, like let's say more industries.
Yeah.
So banking, insurance. And then there are some examples, we have some good use cases, and we trained at certain banks a couple of hundred people. Yeah, those will be use cases, and then you can go abroad and talk to other banks and say what you have done. So now with Corona, even and everything is live and more on demand, we see more industry focus, and we look at the maturity per organization, and we sometimes also look at is learning organized central. So is there one hub? Is there a head of learning, or a head of learning development, or is it decentralized organized? Sometimes that's also, and then sometimes we look at budget. So from Amsterdam, we also operate in Germany, and we also operate in Switzerland. But of course, we have mainly some in the Netherlands, some mainly Dutch clients. So are we really opening in one country? I see it more as like which European corporates are ready to take learning serious, and then they see us at webinars and they talk to us, and then we can help them. So that's the steps that we now take. Okay,
that's super insightful. Thank you. And interestingly, so you mentioned Switzerland, for instance, and this question applies to you, obviously, Alice too. But it's how does your sales strategy differ from one country to another? Do you always like, hey, no, that's the way we sell. I don't care whether you're Swiss, German, French, or Spanish. That's how we sell it. And really, I think a sub question to this one would be: do you guys believe that you need to hire locally to build a local team, really to expand into one country? I mean, I know it's a weird word because you guys are not expanding, but it's or I would assume that you believe more than, hey, we have one sales manager or one whatever you want to call it, a kind of executive that can actually serve different markets from Amsterdam. But I don't know, like, hey, have you seen like any difference in your sales strategy?
No, just a good question, and also there's definitely differences in markets. So, for example, for us, just to mention two, some maybe knowledge and interesting for people who are watching. For example, the UK, we tried the UK. We're still trading some companies, but we see that the UK market is more difficult for us. Why? Because there's a big agency market there. So they outsource everything. The website, the UX, the data, blah, blah. And for us, it's like training is like our philosophy and approach is more like you should train your people and they should do it themselves. So they learn from every experiment and they can do it themselves and quicker. So in the UK, that you see that it will take some time. We really need to put way more energy to convince them. That's one. Some other countries, Germany, for me is like sometimes, still behind with but that's our industry or that we see. And then of course, like after a while, you definitely need some local people on the ground. But for multinationals, for companies who are really big, they are already operating globally or European, whatever. And for them, it's like, hey, we do this, and we talk to we do a webinar, we get a lead from head of learning development or functional leader and loves us. We do some train some people. We do some pilot project, and then you just manage the client from a distance. That doesn't matter. If you really want to penetrate the market, then probably for a while we need to the same what we do with Finland and France, build up local teams. But just scratching the surface in the beginning, we especially now with online and live, we can do a lot from Amsterdam. Yeah,
that's great. Okay. Alice, what about, I would assume that you guys serve from the Netherlands, but I don't know. So how does that work?
Yes, we do. Our office is based in Amsterdam, and to Peter's point, I think it depends on the maturity of both your company and the market that you're trying to penetrate. If you start really having good traction, indeed you will invest and you will localize, I think, the sales force. something that I think we're very proud at ProctorExam is the diversity of the team. We started, it's pure representation of what the Netherlands is. It's a melting pot of people that you arrive in the same spot.
Yeah.
All speak English, but are all from Europe and different background. I think we made the count. I stopped the count at 15 different nationality, and it was not, and it was before the acquisition. So, and ultimately we found out that obviously your clients, if they are from another country, they do relate better to someone from their country with the same language. So it is helpful, but obviously at the end of the day, as managerial, with a managerial hat, you will actually look at the effort versus the revenue that you're getting from those countries and accordingly invest. It's easy to get carried away and get a bit emotional, especially me being French, you know, like I would definitely want to have a French team, but does it make sense? Does it not make sense? And that's the managerial question afterwards. Yeah.
Okay.
And can you provide the full experience in that local language, which is a big investment too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and guys, what are the main challenges? So Alice, in when selling to universities or certification or operations, as you mentioned, and so on, what are the main challenges today?
So again, I think COVID changed definitely the dynamic, and especially in you know, in my field, we ended up from technologies that were looked at as a nice innovation for pilots, let's put a bit of budget, to hey, let's make a large-scale implementation from one day to another.
We need that tomorrow. Yes,
we need that tomorrow. Exactly. So I would say there was definitely a learning curve for all the players involved in that process. I think today is, especially when we sell to B2B, we tend as company to be carried away by the paying customer, but ultimately what matters is the user, which is you and me that are going to learn. And I think today now is trying to balance out those priorities in terms of, indeed, we've got paying customer, but for who are we working further down the line, and how do we ensure that we prioritize and we put the learner at the center of our operation? I think that's certainly one of the next challenge that we're looking at right now.
Oh, interesting one. Okay, well, good luck with this one. But Peter, regarding Growth Tribe, what are the challenges? Is it like tapping into the budget? Is it getting access to the L&D managers, sales cycles? I don't know. Like, what are the main challenges for you?
Depends a little bit per country or per sector again, and maturity. But in general, we train now almost 20,000 people, and you see if you do some groups of people in a company, we see the effect on multiple parameters. So when you do training for us, we always obsessed on behavioral change. So we want that really people after the course do have behavioral change. So they work in a different way. So you see the teams are working, for example, better. The communication goes better. You see the productivity goes up. You see that the projects are going better. They run more experiments. They use more digital tools. And in the end, also when they run more experiments, the top line grows. So when those pilot projects are growing and they're happening, then the next step is, okay, let's do it at scale and grow. And then you get a little bit a discussion where people, in my opinion, I call it outdated mental models, is where people think like, oh, learning is still a cost center in the company. I'm like, it is so strange that, like, how much are you spending on hiring people? You have people here, just send them to a short course, online or offline or hybrid, I don't care. But then they already improve 2-3% in their daily work. If you do it with the whole workforce, it will have immense impact. I talk mainly about the digital skills here. That's what we teach. So the return of investment of those skills are enormous. But then you still see the people, we fix budgets, or we organize it central or decentralized, or all the business units can make their own decision. And then you see that learning is still, I think it is growing, but the learning and development books out there are so freaking boring. It's like paper of books of like no pictures, it's all blah blah blah, and nobody's measuring the impact of learning. So you see, we're in the early stage, in my opinion, in corporate learning, where some people still have 1,500 euros training budget. I'm like, yeah, good luck if your whole workforce is going to change and you're going to prepare yourself for the digital changes that are coming up with new technology, and everybody in your company has 1,500 euros training budget.
Okay, well,
yeah. So
that's
what
a
do we
big
see
one,
there?
huh?
Yeah, that's a big one. But it is okay. I think saying to people you're responsible for your own learning and good luck, that will not work anymore, because there are three blockers. We did the big research, three blockers with learning in organizations. One is the growth mindset. The larger organization, that's our field. Some people don't have the growth mindset. They don't know how to learn or what to learn. And then it's the choice. What should I learn? How deep should I learn something? And what should I learn next? And that is becoming really difficult, even for own professionals. Should I learn data visualization, data storytelling, advanced analytics, or should I go into blockchain? Or should I know more about UX design? Or should I learn about agile? Blah, blah, blah. And then the other one is time. Corporates still don't make enough time for learning. So the budgets are there. I think mindset and leadership is still missing. Looking at the mirror, the leadership is they shout a lot from the roofs for the corporates, but then I look in the mirror. What are you? Don't be a talker, be a doer. They are not. But then create time for people to learn, because people have families and go out on vacation and stuff. And then, you still need to do this 15 hours of course in the evening, or people don't have time for that. So for me, the blockers are mainly time during the work time, and I think how organizations still think about learning and how they organize learning inside the organization.
Okay, that's really insightful, huh? Time and mindset, really. These are the two ones. Okay.
And leadership, and for sure leadership. The thing, just one small note is like we have people who are, let's say, the functional people, and we work a lot with the companies who are more open-minded about learning and who really want to make steps and change. But when people come to the courses, they love it, and they're like, "Wow! Now finally, I can start using some tools. My work becomes way more fun because I'm otherwise doing boring tasks, and now I can use certain tools and work with the team." But then they are in the organization structure, in the organization process, what they are allowed to do, what they are not allowed to do, and then you get the leadership elements again. What's there? So the people who do it and execute, they really like it, and they want to do more with tech, and they are not afraid to change. But then the organization still has some metrics or revenue targets that are not aligned with how you want to be in the future. So you want to run more experiments, you want to be more data driven, but the team is not allowed to make any fails or
short term
mistakes
versus long term. We all in the same paradigm.
And the safety, really the psychology safety in the company to make mistakes, because at startups it's completely part of the culture. Run experiments, failing, fake it till you make it, learn. The lean startup methodology. But at the corporate, the larger organization, everything that we create needs to be 100% when it goes out of the door. And we have a big branding department, a big legal department who blocks everything. And then the leadership starts shouting, we need to be more data-driven and agile and working, and we need to be more as a startup. That doesn't work, right? That box. So those are the things that where we see is like, if you really take learning serious, start reorganizing it and give it more priority.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Really, it's been really, really insightful. I said it already twice, but look, we have a really quiet and shy crowd today. So unfortunately, no, we didn't have any questions. But I'll have one last fun and bonus question, as I call it, which is if you were a head of people or L&D of a big European company, or for instance, for you, Alice, a dean of a top university, what would you do differently, or what would be your top priorities regarding, obviously, ProctorExam and Growth Tribe? That's a weird one. I know that's a weird one, but yeah, that's a fun one.
No, but as a head of people or as a manager in a larger organization, something that I really push the team to do now is to look at the fact that we are a learning company at core. We do create learning on a day-to-day basis, and a bit coming from another industry, which was marketing and advertising in the past. I think company went from having to rely on TV and media to reach their audience. Here we are a bit in the same dynamic with education. We are becoming teaching and learning company at core. We do have the tools that we can implement in order to develop learning and to become those nurturing organization to create talent. So that's what I would certainly continue to push as a head of people is you will continue to train and learn and be more autonomous in terms of doing so.
Okay, well, Peter would love that.
Maybe working with Growth Tribe.
Okay, well, exactly. Peter, what about you? Yeah, what would you do differently? Yeah, or what would be your top priorities, really?
So there's a small research about how many chief learning officers are in the board of companies, and it's like less than 2%. And some companies have only one learning development manager for every 10,000 employees. That doesn't make sense for me in an economy where change is going to be so changed and rapidly, and new marketing channels are coming up, and new business models are there, and technology is changing, and data is going to be crucial to be quicker than your competitors. So one, put your chief learning officer in the board. Like, learning should be from the onboarding to the people you have to keep people as well. So put someone there. The challenge the CEOs show by example. And leaders always say, okay, which CEOs know how to code? Which CEOs know how to read certain data science stuff? Which CEOs know what UX design is? No, your company is in a digital economy, in a digital world, and you don't know the fundamentals, a CEO or as a leader. So start being a doer, right? The CEO from Nokia, he started teaching machine learning to the rest of the company. That's an example. It's a beautiful Harvard article from that one. And also measure learning really on a data-driven way. So what is the impact of learning? And I see a question here as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's a beautiful segue into Nina's question. Thank you, Nina.
So just to answer, we started Growth Tribe born with the first European Growth Hacking Academy. That's the early days from Growth Tribe. So it's obsessed in being really data-driven and really measure. And what we see with behavioral changes, you have them on a personal level, which is most of the time, I did the course, I finished the course, here's my certificate. Yeah, but what's the operational impact you have, and what's the organizational change? And on those two, you can look at projects at how often do people use different tools before the course, after the course, and after the course? How long are certain projects running? What kind of experiments are people running? What's the runway of certain projects to go to market, for example? All those things are now measurable, and you can, with certain trainings, you can measure to increase or decrease that. And we have now some examples with our capability scan, where we measure what the level is of people before the course on growth mindset, data capabilities, growth capabilities, and some more. And then during the course and after the course, and then you really see the difference. So that would be as well. And then I also would challenge a lot of companies, start looking at your recruitment cost and look at like rebuilding costs, because I think with learning is like you should help your people in the company. Not that only we do this, but and sometimes recruit talent. Everybody's shouting talent, but it's extremely expensive to get talent. But if you develop people, you have your own pipeline internal, and those return of investment projects are becoming better and better. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you, Nina. Hopefully, Peter gave a very interesting and insightful answer to your question. One last question from Jack. So Jack, we thank you also for asking this interesting question, which is, at what stage did you feel your product was ready to begin a full marketing campaign? Alice, do you want to take this one?
What is the
Putting you on the
definition of a
spotlight
full
here, buddy.
marketing campaign? But I think to Peter's point before, just do and iterate on it. I think you will certainly look for the most pragmatic marketing mix in order to start small and make your experiments. I think from the moment you start, even if you just have a prototype, just you're ready to start a marketing campaign. It's just a question of not looking at a marketing campaign as just a small Facebook ad experiment is already a campaign. So it depends on the scope that you want to reach, for sure.
Jack, you would be surprised by how many startups are starting marketing campaigns without even having like an MVP. Yeah. Yes, I'll echo what Alice said. Yeah. Anyway, Peter, do you want to add something?
No, yeah, it's a good question. The only there's so many details in this question, but just exactly what Alice already said. Like just test and run, and it's an iterating process, so it's never finished.
But be ready to execute. Be ready to execute. Don't because that's where you create some issues. I think that's sorry.
And the only thing after a while you want to. We've now took us some time, or like really some time at GrowTrap as well to, for example, really measure the fully loaded customer acquisition cost and the fully loaded customer lifetime value. And now we're testing, and then maybe we know now if €1 goes in, how much do you get out? But that can take a really long time for doing it well. But as soon as you know that, then it's like pushing money into it and then go. But and then it still iterates. It's still changing. So your adoption curve of your product is changing. So after a while, you go to laggers, and from early adapters to laggers, and you need to adjust it. So yeah.
Well, Jack, hopefully great answers, insightful answers for you. But the main key takeaway here for you, Jack, is really experiment and take a Growth Tribe course, I guess. But guys, thank you, a massive thank you to both of you. That was fun. Good to see you again. It's been a while, and I think we'll move on to the second fireside chat. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Alice. I'll then get onto the investor views with Ilonka and Ernst.
Yeah, so guys, we're really excited to have obviously two friends. So yeah, hi Ernst, hi Ilonka.
Hi.
So let's welcome two Dutch VCs to get their perspectives on the edtech space. Ilonka was the founding partner of TapTrove Ventures, and Ernst was an investment manager at Slingshot. So welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us today. We still have 15 minutes, so we still have time. So even though we overrun a bit for the first conversation, it would be great if you gave a little bit of an intro to yourselves and your fund. So Ilonka, if you want to go first, as I always say, ladies first. So that would be great.
Thank you very much, David. You are calling from France. I'm calling in from the basement of an Amsterdam kennel house. So right on location. I and also the team have been in WorkTech for the last 7 years. So we run first the Randstad Innovation Fund, and now we founded TapTrove Ventures. TapTrove Ventures is focused on the future of work. So it's not a general VC. It's and we look at everything work related. How can you improve professional journeys? And then B2B SaaS, so really focused on corporate learning. So nothing to do with K-12.
Thank you, Ilonka. That's helpful. Ernst, do you want to give a bit more of info on your background and Slingshot?
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, good to see you again. Last time we saw each other, I think it's about a couple of years ago. So hopefully we'll see you in Amsterdam anytime soon. I'm Ernst. I'm a senior investment manager at Slingshot Ventures. I joined the fund about 4 years ago after the first fund was just raised. So we are early stage venture fund. We primarily focus on digital consumer life. So we're basically not the Dutch Brighteye. We don't particularly focus on EdTech. We also do not focus on B2B, but still we believe that there are some interesting pockets in the EdTech space that also fit with the strategy of our fund.
Yeah.
Well, we have two funds. The first fund is 65 million. It is almost completely invested, and we're now in the midst of raising the next fund, just at the first close. And we invested in 16 companies over the years. Typical entry tickets range from 250K up to 5 million. And yeah, that's basically what we do.
Thank you. That's helpful. Do you guys, I mean, just one quick general question, but do you guys focus mainly on the Netherlands, or do you also actively source companies outside outside your region?
Yeah, we source deals in Germany, the Netherlands, the Benelux, Belgium, France, and the Nordics. That's our focus area. So
okay, that's great.
Yeah, well, pretty much the same for us. I would only add Tel Aviv to that because we have 2 investments in Tel Aviv.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. So yeah, I'm just asking. So if we have something interesting outside the Netherlands, we can still share with you. Good to know. So guys, let's start with a burning question, which is, I would really love to understand what is your honest and really honest, highlighted, right, perspective on the European EdTech space. And why am I asking you this question is because the EdTech space has evolved interestingly over the past year and a half, let's put it this way, or 2 years. And I would love to really get your take on what do you really think about that space, which has historically not been quote unquote super sexy for VCs. So yeah, Ilonka, if you want to go first.
Yeah, well, I'm very excited, to be honest. And really honest, yeah, because we have been following the space and also in the US. We made investments in the US connected to learning, and we saw there it was struggling for a long time, and then the last 2 years, boom. So and of course, COVID has helped a lot. So if you talk to companies, if you join webinars, the adoption of learning is just tremendous. And then the question is, how sustainable is it? But we will stay and work in a hybrid work environment.
Mm-hmm.
So we are convinced it will, for a part, sustain, for sure, for a large part. And there will also be some great other opportunities to expand beyond EdTech, but we can address that later. So I'm very enthusiastic about it. And well, the figures you Reese showed also tell the story. I think.
Exactly. Very encouraging figures, which is, as I said at the beginning, this is a really mad year for the EdTech space in Europe. So yeah, that's great. What about you, Ernst? How do you feel about the EdTech space?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're very interested in it, obviously also because of the effect of COVID. I mean, we see it across every sector that we are looking at that technology, that the adoption of technology is rapidly increasing, providing a lot of opportunities. And we find it interesting, but actually we've never invested in it so far. And the primary reason for that is that we always find it quite difficult to really see who gets the benefit of the product or the service and who is actually going to pay for it. And is the party that's going to pay for it, where do the funds come from? Funds unlimited, or is it the budget allocated? So if you look to the parties paying for it, can of course be schools, business clients, or maybe the parents of young children. How do you reach them, and is there enough budget for the product? So that makes it difficult for us, but still, I mean, we see 2 long-term trends. I mean, I don't know if you both read the 21 Lessons of the 21st Century of Yuval Harari. If you read it, then you know what's going to happen with the world. Everything that requires manual work is going to be automated. So in our opinion, the only way to really add value to the economy is by having skills that cannot be automated, and also by being creative, knowing a lot, and being able to really build something and add really something to the economy. So education is more important than ever to be of value and to distinguish yourself in this economy. And the other trend is the flexibilization of work. I mean, the labor market is becoming more flexible. Change is increasing, or the speed of change is increasing. So you need to adapt. You need to learn along the way, find your way, get new skills if the demand for new skills comes up. And so those are interesting things because it's primarily to the individual to manage that, and that fits with the strategy of our fund and not having to sell to B2B.
Yeah.
So we're definitely interested in those long-term developments, and that's why we believe that EdTech will stay very hot and will become even hotter over the next period of time, and we hope to invest in it over the next years with the next fund.
Thank you, guys. Really, really appreciate it. And it's to your point, Ernst. Really, you're right. Distribution is one of the main challenges for EdTech startups. So yeah. Yes, I completely agree. So yeah, every time at Brighteye, when we see a very interesting company, especially in the K-12 space, we really have to build an extremely strong conviction on the distribution side of things.
Definitely. I mean, when you look to it, you can even think that education is becoming the new luxury. Education is very costly in many parts of the world, and if you look to the power of technology, it has the power to democratize education again and make it available to everyone in the world. And I mean, we're not necessarily an impact investor, but we love products that benefit the people and have a positive impact on the life of consumers. So in that sense, we're very eager to see if there are companies out there doing this.
Great.
And I also think that if you think that 94 million people need to be retrained by 2030, and that's already incredible. And then in the previous panel, also something very interesting was raised. How can you show an ROI on training? And I think we are on a turning point that we will be able to show what it does, and that. Because of training, you can retain people. People are happier and more productive in their work. And if you collect all these different data points, the urgency and the need and also the ROI for EdTech will also improve over time.
I completely agree, Ilonka, and thank you for mentioning that, because it's not the $1 million question, it's the 1 billion or even the $1 trillion question. Is just to be able to really measure the pedagogical impact. It's a very, very hard thing to do. Some different ways to do that, but yes, it's still we still haven't been able to see one company to really crack that massive challenge. So yes, I completely agree with that. And by the way, Ilonka, are there key trends that you're currently key EdTech trends, right, that you're currently excited about?
Yeah, well, we also look at, it's almost where we invest in B2B2C, I would say. Yeah. Because it's in the end the talent who is using the education. So we really look also at personalized learning. So how can people learn and also take it with them? So I think that's a very interesting trend, that you take your learning with you. The whole soft skills, it's very clear, and there are many reports around that apart from the hard skills, the soft skills become more and more important, also because of the automation. And how can you learn soft skills, and how can you do that in a much more, and how can you certify these soft skills, and how can you make almost a skill? How can you take your skills and your certifications with you from one job to another? I think that's very, very exciting to see how that could. So we are very, and the whole, I think the disruption will come in the LMS world. So I think a lot of companies are fed up with the LMS systems.
Yeah,
and there is a lot of disruption coming, and I think that's the direction. So these are all very interesting trends.
That's great. Please, if you find one interesting company in that space, feel free to share it, because I got this is. And Ernst, what about you? Like, what are the key trends that you're excited about?
Basically, briefly touched upon it already, of course, in the previous part I was talking about. So especially those pockets in the edtech space that cater more to the individual, like online platforms that aggregate types of information and allow for lifelong learning. Those are the things that we find interesting. Home tutoring, and we see a lot happening there. So those are typical business models that fit with our fund strategy. And for us, that's maybe an even more important part than the specific vertical where a company is, because if we know the business model and if we know how to reach the end client and the one who's paying for it, that allows us to properly help the companies that we invest in. And it's one of the key things that we think is very important for every VC. But of course, we only can do what we think is important. And we would never invest in companies that we're not able to help to grow and unlock new opportunities, unlock new markets, acquire new customers. So that's the way we think about it. Okay.
And if we take a crystal ball here, any I know it's a really broad question, but do you guys have any predictions for the next 3 to 5 years on the edtech space in the Netherlands and perhaps or in Europe in terms of funding? Do you see like the money is going into one particular direction, i.e. K-12, higher ed, corporate training, or whatever? Or I would love to get your thoughts on that.
Well, there is a huge amount of money went into, of course, corporate learning and into collaboration tools. That's the biggest pocket, really. So I think that trend will continue. What I'm really excited about is the overlap with fintech and with HR tech, and that you will see perhaps platforms which combine that much more. And my prediction is that we will see much more funding in more combined solutions, and that people will look more holistically at it. That you need to finance your education and need a job as well. And either you are a very specific tool and you fit in the whole ecosystem. There was also a very nice talk, the previous panel. Or you build a platform in a specific vertical who is doing all that with last mile training and these kind of things. So I hope that it will be in more combined, complete platforms in verticals.
Okay, well, fair enough. Thank you, Ernst. What about you?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're not completely edtech focused, so it's difficult for us to determine in which specific verticals things will develop. But if you look to the market as a whole, I mean, I think that the National Education Program has about 8.5 billion euros in funding. So probably we'll see a lot of money coming from the government, and maybe also entrepreneurs and specific initiatives being catered to specific goals of this money. And well, if you think about it, it might lead to a couple of things. As certain initiatives that are very innovative, that have the opportunity to come to life with the public capital, which would not have been funded with private capital. So innovation should flourish. On the other hand, I also see that ideas that private capital wouldn't fund are now being funded with public capital, and they die out very fast. But if there's a lot of cheap capital in the market, then of course that capital will absorb some of the losses in the industry that will be made to get that industry started. So my prediction is that you will probably see more later stage rounds on average. And then, of course, also larger funding rounds, because for the early stage funding, there will be a lot more capital available from the public market.
Interesting take, really. Okay, thank you, guys. There is an interesting, actually, question from Jack, which is, which factor would excite you and cause you to really consider investing in an edtech startup? That's an interesting one. Would someone want to take this one?
Yeah, well, if I can reply on this, it's the thing that excites us in every startup. Is the team, the entrepreneurs having a great idea, being able to disrupt a market or have a new technology that but that they use to create a whole new market. And then, of course, the scalability and ambition and the ability to go global and really build a successful and profitable company. And that's, I think, we as VCs sometimes tend to forget that companies in the end have to earn money. It's not all about top line growth. It's also about unit economics. And so all those elements, we find it important in every company that we invest in.
Yeah. What about you, Ilonka?
Yeah, I agree. I would not repeat what Ernst is saying because that's completely true. I think that now, because this is such a becoming such a booming industry, you have a lot of copycats and people are trying to do a lot of the same things. So really a great understanding or where you stand and where you differentiate and why you think you are going to be the winner in that specific segment. I think a very strong story and conviction, and that we really believe that those entrepreneurs can do that. I think that's very important. And we're always looking for something which is innovative. So if you to bring really your own idea or something special to the table.
Jack, I hope they answer. They provided a good answers to your question. In terms of Brighteye, I'll just tell you really briefly. So look, generally speaking, the tech space. Three things that really get us excited at Brighteye. It's the first, the distribution, which at a point, if you found a hack or if you really found a way to get your product into your user's hand in a very efficient way, that's great. The second one is really the pedagogical impact that you might have. And that can be obviously not only learning, but could be a placement, job placement, finding a job and so on. But this pedagogical impact is really interesting. And the third one is motivation over time, because let's face it, learning is not an easy process for everyone. Not everybody enjoys it. So if you can prove that you're maintaining users over time, these are really three key areas for us. And then obviously the value props, as Ilonka and Ernst said, and we have 4 value props at Brighteye that get us excited, but we will get into that perhaps in the later Jack, feel free to reach out and we can go a bit deeper there. But thank you guys. I know we're running out of time. Mayor, you had a really interesting question. The answer is yes. We would be interested, so feel free to reach out. and thank you so much for everything you've shared, Ilonka and Ernst. It's been fantastic to have you with us today. Thank you. That's it for us. I'll let Hege take it from here. Over to you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, David, and thank you to all the panelists. Of course, that was absolutely brilliant. So I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I have. Here at Brighteye, we're excited to invite you for another event already next week when we join forces with our colleagues at Sparkmind Ventures for an hour of Ask the EdTech Investors Anything. Meet our partner Alex Birolatzis and partner Kai Talas at Sparkmind in a digital session during Oslo Innovation Week on Wednesday, the 29th of September. A link to registration in the chat, and I've seen Peter also posted of the Dutch Edtech events also next week. Next stop on this tour will be the Baltics on Wednesday the 20th of October. More info to follow. Please keep an eye on our LinkedIn and Twitter for updates. For now, thanks for joining today and have a really nice evening. Thanks everyone. Bye.